I broke my promise by giving my sports car to my stepson instead of my actual son. Now my son does not want to see my face. I messed up. It sounds simple, right? A mistake maybe, but not one that would ruin your entire life. But this mistake, this one decision, destroyed my relationship with my son, possibly forever. It's been over a year now, and I haven't seen or spoken to him since. Every day I think about the moment I realized I had lost him, and yesterday was a brutal reminder of just how badly I screwed up. But let me take you back to how all this started. Maybe then you'll understand why it still haunts me. I've been a car mechanic since I was 19. I spent my early 20s learning everything I could about engines, exhausts, suspensions, you name it. I loved it. By 28, I had saved enough to open my own garage. My shop became my sanctuary, a place where I could just lose myself in work. At that time, I was married, and we had a son, my boy, my firstborn. He loved spending time at the shop with me. He'd stand there, mesmerized, watching me work. And like any kid, he had a favorite, a black Chevrolet Chevelle SS. It wasn't just any car, though. This was a gift from my dad when I turned 17. It was a beauty, a symbol of my youth, my passion. It was my pride and joy, and my son felt the same way about it. He used to beg me to take him for rides, and I always did. As he got older, he'd ask questions, smart ones too, about the engine, the parts, everything. It wasn't just a car to him, it was a part of our bond. When he was about 10 years old, he asked me, "Dad, will this car be mine someday?" I remember it so clearly. I looked down at him, grinning, and said, "If you keep up your grades and stay on the right path, one day this car will be yours." Things changed after my divorce. My son went to live with his mom, but he still visited regularly. Our relationship didn't really suffer, at least not at first. But as time went on, we saw each other less and less. He moved a few states away when his mom remarried. By then, I had remarried too. My new wife had a son from her previous marriage, a boy who was only 4 when I met him. My stepson, he became like my own son. His biological father wasn't in the picture, so I was all he had. He grew up calling me Dad, and I took on the role happily. He was a great kid, smart, respectful, always polite. But while my stepson was growing up in my house, my biological son was growing up somewhere else. We talked less frequently, just the occasional phone call and visits became rare. By the time he was 16, he had moved even farther away for college. I blamed life for the distance between us. I figured he was just busy with school and growing up. I told myself that it was normal, that every teenager pulls away at some point. And besides, I had my hands full. My wife had gotten really sick around that time, kidney failure caused by E. coli. The shop was struggling. I was barely holding it all together. Fast forward to 2019. My stepson had just turned 16. He was doing incredibly well in school, straight A's on his way to med school. My wife and I were so proud of him. He was everything you'd want a son to be, and I wanted to show him how much we appreciated his hard work. So I made the decision that changed everything. I gave him the Chevelle for his birthday. My pride and joy, the car I had promised to my firstborn son, now belonged to my stepson. I thought it was a great idea at the time. My stepson was thrilled. His friends were amazed. We celebrated, and I felt like I had done something good, something meaningful. But then I made my second mistake. I sent my biological son a picture of my stepson standing next to the car. A few minutes after I sent the picture, I got a text back from my son. It read, "Is this a joke?" At first, I didn't understand. I thought he was just confused, so I texted back, "No, why?" Then my phone rang. When I answered, my son was furious. His voice, God, I'll never forget it, was full of anger and pain. "Are you serious?" he yelled. "You promised me that car. You told me if I did well in school, if I worked hard, that it would be mine." I was caught off guard. I hadn't thought about that promise in years. I tried to explain myself, but he wasn't having it. "You don't care about me anymore, do you? You're more of a father to your stepson than you ever were to me," he screamed. That's when I snapped. Instead of listening, instead of acknowledging his pain, I got defensive. In a moment of rage, I said something I'll regret for the rest of my life. "You didn't deserve the car. If you want to talk to me, call me when you change your attitude." Then I hung up. As soon as I put the phone down, my wife turned to me, shocked. "What did you just do? He's your son." But I was still too angry to listen. I didn't care. I felt insulted. How dare he accuse me of not being a good father? I thought he was being ungrateful. It took me a few days to calm down and realize what I had done. By then, it was too late. My son had blocked my number. He had shut me out. The silent years. 3 weeks later, I found out from my ex-wife that my son had graduated from college. He had become an automotive service technician, just like me. He had worked hard, and he was one of the best in his class. He had wanted to follow in my footsteps, and I hadn't even asked. I wasn't invited to his graduation. In fact, I found out that he had wanted to come visit me after graduating to show me how far he had come. But after that phone call, he decided that he wanted nothing more to do with me. My ex-wife cried over the phone, telling me how heartbroken he was. He had planned to move back home, work with me in the shop, and eventually take over when I retired. But now he wanted nothing to do with the shop, nothing to do with me. I tried reaching out to him. I called, I emailed, I even tried looking him up on social media, but he was gone, completely out of my life. Then yesterday, a package arrived. There was no return address, but I knew it was from him. Inside, I found 3 things: the toy model of the Chevelle that he used to play with as a kid, a torn-up picture of us standing next to the car, and an old videotape. I watched the tape. In it, a much younger me was fixing a car in the shop, and my son, about 7 years old, was filming. Halfway through the video, I looked at him and said, "One day, this will all be yours. The shop, the Chevelle, everything." I broke down. That was the moment it all hit me. He wasn't angry because of the car. He was heartbroken because I had broken my promise, because I had failed him as a father. Reflection. Now the car is back in the garage. My stepson, who had no idea about the promise I had made to my son, returned it to me. He didn't want to come between us, but it's too late. The damage is done. Every day I wake up hoping that my son will reach out to me. I hope that he'll forgive me. But deep down, I know I don't deserve it. Some mistakes, some betrayals, can't be fixed. All I can do is live with the regret and hope that one day he'll give me a second chance. TLDR, I gave my sports car to my stepson, breaking a promise I made to my biological son. Now I may never see him again.